What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. Now, although this video will be what's on the tin, there are some other things to talk about, and maybe we'll start with them so we can get them out of the way. First, that book came in, recommended by a commenter. Thank you. 30 pages in, it's already proving useful. It's written with criminality in mind, and dude's definitions are a little weird in some spots, but even this restricted content is more useful than a lot of the shit I've watched on YouTube trying to get a handle on sociopaths and antisocial personality disorder. One of the things, or one of the characteristics referenced early in the book, is a propensity or proclivity for sociopaths to use aliases, to like using aliases, so I don't feel as bad about my paranoia. I feel like I know the person who recommended me that book. Don't know who it is specifically, but the energy feels very familiar. Another thing that I noticed when I was watching and doing all my research, and then referenced in the book a little bit, but I think I clinched it in a different way. There is this thing in sociopaths about lacking long-term thinking, or having trouble with it. Now, that's odd because it seems like this is a both-at-once situation. Many sociopaths seem to have big long-term plans, or maybe because one of the things the book talks about is you're aware it's a spectrum, but the book gets into that spectrum a little bit. It seems like, quotes, common sociopaths get arrested a lot. So in your dealing with sociopaths, people with ASPD, the odds you're dealing with a higher order one is higher than you might expect. Also, another thing the book talked about was the way sociopaths and even psychopaths, some of them manage to fit in, blend in with socialized society using their skills. Not masking skills or manipulation skills, but I mean talent. Sociopaths who have a talent and are good at it, oftentimes both fit into society well, but not just in a this person's so great so we'll excuse all this other bad stuff way, but, and I don't know how this works, but it seems like they get or are able to develop an understanding of how to work within baseline or socialization when they have a talent like this. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's a causation correlation thing, but it would explain or help explain the artistic sociopath thing that we were talking about last time. And if you are a sociopath, it might be worth investing time and effort into one of your talents. Again, I don't know what happens, but it seems like sociopaths with a good talent end up fitting in a lot better. Anyway, we were talking about long-term thinking. The way they, at least in my experience, they do have these big ideas and long-term plans, but then at the same time, they do, moment to moment, act in impulsive ways that often jeopardize those plans. So maybe they can think long-term, but the process of getting to that point, that's where the impulsivity comes in and tries to kick everything over. We are slowly figuring this out. The reason I bring this up is another peculiarity in sociopath communication. It seems like even if they know you well, they evaluate you and react according to the you they see or hear right now. It seems like they have a harder time developing an understanding of your or another person's grander life strategy, or ebbs and flows. In other words, even if they know you and probably have a good psychological profile of you, it seems like they'll be operating around you or with you using the you they see right now and understand right now. There is this proclivity to take shit literally in unexpected ways, or act as if they don't know you. Example, you've been around a sociopath for 2 years. You have proven your loyalty and reliability to one another. But if you're carrying a knife and they can see it, they'll act wary like you're liable to be dangerous. And that's a more extreme example, but it demonstrates the point I'm making. Lighter example. Let's say you and a sociopath, between you two, have established this point that you can say anything to one another without negative repercussions. Or, in my more personal example, all you need to do is be real with me, and I've proven that it's not a bad thing to be real with me. If you're real with me, I will work with you, I'll help you, I'll do this, I'll do that. And here we're referencing Jackal, the woman I worked for when I was first getting into nonprofits. I'm pretty sure she has ASPD. She showed up alongside Mega Cunt in one of my dreams last night. Anyway, despite this record of realness, she chose not to be real with me in an unnecessary way, in an unfounded way. And not even in a negative or self-defensive sense. It was odd. Even when she screwed me over, I could feel that wasn't personal, and that's why I don't hold any ill will toward her. Anyway, she acted as if, or took action as if this rapport hadn't been established, or this record of productive communication hadn't been established. And I'm not explaining this well. It seems like sociopaths can know you for a long time and know what you're about, and somehow not know what you're about. We'll need to think about this a lot more. Okay, now into the meat of the video. I'm noticing sociopaths are big on humor and they're good at memes. They're especially good at shitposting in the traditional 4chan style. And I was also noticing a pattern of lots of sociopaths liking 4chan. And I'm going to assume other sorts of communities like it. And while I was trying to figure this out, I found something that helps in the book. And the book is called The Antisocial Personalities by David T. Licken. So sociopathy is defined by a lot of things, but one of the major characteristics is a lack of socialization. And when people say that, they usually mean socialization by society, capital S society, polite society, Joe Dipshit society. And there are a bunch of reasons for that, but what's interesting is it's not an inability to be socialized in general. Because when you say socialization, you think about polite society, but polite society is defined by lots of rules and mechanisms which sociopaths are neurologically not good at. But there are cultures and are societies they can be socialized into. And in many cases, they will seek out these societies to join and to be socialized by. Because these societies, these niche societies, these outlaw societies, operate by rules they can understand, they can integrate with, or even praised for having these traits. The same traits that fucked them out of normal society are heroic in these outside societies, like 4chan. And it's funny, I do like older psychology books. This one isn't super old, but the dude was working in the 50s. He mentions race quite a lot. And in a positive, kindly way. The reason I bring this up is he mentions gang activity. And when he talks about this, I think King Von, which, you know, everything we've talked about with in relation to him that tracks. Anyway, for American urban black youths who at a higher percentage develop sociopathy, which happens in large part thanks to parenting issues, which are not always the parents' fault. Many of these sociopaths will turn to gangs because that's the opportunity that's available. That's both the culture that will praise them for the traits or lack of abilities, social abilities, emotional abilities, that will keep them out of polite society, while also presenting entrepreneurial opportunities, which is another thing the book is interesting about. This idea that if you took sociopaths and gave them opportunities to use their skills, into their natural states productively and legally, you'd probably see a lot more entrepreneurs in the world. Anyway, his gang breakdown made me think of 4chan. The internet is crazy because now these outsider societies are very accessible, and they're also much lower risk than gang activity would be. And there's also that humor element. Humor seems to be a really big deal with sociopaths. And you could say that's a big deal with everybody, but no, Joe Dipshit isn't very funny and doesn't like funny shit. Like the Patrice O'Neill joke, the women think funny shit is funny, but men think mean shit is funny. Replace that with Joe Dipshit thinks funny shit is funny, and sociopaths think mean shit is funny. Not in all cases, but they do have a very tough crowd flavored humor. Very Nick DiPaolo-ish. Because shit is funny when boundaries are pushed or surpassed. And even less intense sociopaths push or surpass these boundaries naturally. Like that interview with that one woman who pissed herself in the White House just to see what would happen, which is unfathomably based. But there are also classes of sociopaths who like fucking with and surpassing, overstepping typical social boundaries. For some of them, it's just a rush. For other ones, it's sticking it to the man in a way. And you look at these online communities, 4chan especially, but others too. Much of the joy in these communities comes from doing antisocial shit. And when I say this, I don't just mean, or don't only mean, or don't specifically mean man on man antisocial behavior. I mean anti society, anti socialization with polite society behavior. Like rotmaxing, like racism. And this is fucked up, but also a little bit funny. Oh boy. I think a selection of sociopaths' idea or conception of black people and black behavior makes them try to act less sociopathic. I think I mentioned, I might have taken that part out, but in the book it mentions, thanks to a variety of factors, black children in the United States, their rates of sociopathy are much higher because of the situations their parents are in. And it's also, sociopathy generally develops at a much higher rate in dense urban areas. So you take this higher, much higher chance of sociopathy, you combine it with other races' desire for an enemy, both as a vent for their shadows and also to reinforce certain forms of socialization, although sociopaths, the violent sociopaths, exist in every area. Black culture gets defined by the sociopaths among them. and the lowest and most violent degree of them, which is very unfortunate, but in this case, outside sociopaths who are racist see in what they think black people are, which is actually just, it's literally just them, but less developed and black. All the behaviors they themselves are on the edge of doing and giving into themselves, but racism makes them want to be more disciplined and not be like that. That's my theory. And I bring this up because it seems like a lot of sociopaths are racist. I mean, everybody is, including the. I'd be willing to bet you take Nation of Islam or the Black Panthers or whoever, black supremacist groups, I'm willing to bet there are a lot of sociopaths in them too. I think racism is a largely, quote, safe vent or outlet for lots of sociopaths' darker urges. But I don't know that, and that would be an entire rabbit hole that we don't have the time or space to get into here. This video's not going super well. I'm twitchy. I wanted to make a video about loving sociopaths, but I don't know why this one felt a little more important, but this one did feel more important. So what you get with a site like 4chan is a set of codes or conducts that sociopaths can socialize themselves to because their behaviors are either rewarded or not punished. And that's important to know because it seems like of the varieties of sociopaths, most of them want to be attached to something, to be part of something, which is probably why they identify themselves so strongly with these outsider outlaw communities like gang affiliations or like websites, forums, 4chan. They also get to be rewarded and productive. Also, this is... I think I'm paranoid... Or no, I think this video is going weird because I am paranoid. I think the lesbian psyop, brainwashing psyop, the sissification psyop on INT, 4chan's international board back in the day, I thought it was run by lesbians trying to make men gay. I'm sure there's part of that. I'm sure that's part of what's going on. I also have a feeling now that the pieces are beginning to come together. I think there was a cabal of sociopathic women trying to make men gay on INT, the international board. And I'm an eighth the victim, I guess. That's another thing, and I guess it is good to talk about this here because this probably wouldn't go in the other video. Sociopaths will go to lengths you wouldn't expect them to, in cases you wouldn't expect them to, and probably in cases they wouldn't expect themselves to. Anyway, the point is, many of them do want to fit in and be part of something. And if society won't support their getting into polite society, then they will go elsewhere. And in my shoes, that must be one of the reasons many of them feel so familiar. You can be an outsider and not have ASPD or anything else, but if you are going outside traditional society, polite society, especially into communities or cultures that reward fucked up or weird shit, you'll probably be spending a lot of time with sociopaths, which is probably another reason I like them so much. Many of them are the shit posters I failed to be. And again, I mentioned 4chan in this video, but I'm sure whatever's happening here is going on, and especially went on in earlier internet, in lots of communities that were tucked away. Now, to summarize, sociopaths with a talent tend somehow to end up with fewer socialization issues or hiccups. Sociopaths seem to make decisions or think in the moment with a limited data set, even if they have access to a longer range, wider data set, and they know they do. Don't know why that is, but that seems to be the case. Especially when it comes to people and understanding their broader attitudes and life strategies. I guess that contributes to what makes sociopaths so curious, especially about people. It's in part because they don't understand people very well, even though technically they can. But that's more in the I love sociopaths, please hug me and step on me video, which is coming. Sociopaths struggle with typical socialization, but they both can be socialized and in many cases crave socialization, but they have to go to outsider or outlaw communities to get that. These are gangs, these days, more probably weird online communities. And I didn't emphasize this as much as I should have, but they can socialize into these communities very well. To the point, it almost feels like they're the pillars of these communities that have taken them in. And they're also very funny because they are naturally either boundary unaware or boundary pushing or surpassing in a very fun and funny fuck you sort of way. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.